Pathway Kids, this is Miss Amber and I'm excited to be with you. If we don't see you at church, I just thought I'd make a video to explain what we're learning about. And this week's a fun week because we're learning about Daniel's and the Lion's Den. We're going to be reading. It says, just following the crowd. This is from How Great Is Our God. And it says, so we've all felt it. The pressure to follow the crowd, to fit in, to do what everyone else is doing. It's called peer pressure, and humans are not the only ones who feel it. Some animals do too. You see, in South Africa, monkeys will switch foods that they eat when they switch into a new group, even if they didn't like that food before. In a group of whales in New England, one of the whales started smacking its tail on the water before it gathered fish to eat. Soon, several other whales were copying the same tail smacking process to get food. Brown rats and chimpanzees will also follow a crowd when trying to figure out how to get treats. You know, it's natural to want to fit in. Sometimes it's okay to go along with the crowd. Sometimes, though, it is not. Like when you feel pressured to do something that you do not want to do, cleaning your room does not count. Or when you want to do something that you know is wrong or even dangerous. Whether it's making fun of somebody because everyone else is doing it, or trying something that you know you should not. There are times when you need to stand up to the crowd and say, no. You know, remember, you are trying to please God, not the kids on your team or the cool kids at school. God wants you to be like Jesus, not like everyone else. You know, and who knows, when you stand up and do what's right, just maybe somebody will copy you. And so we're talking about Daniel and the Lion's Den, and this is like a great story. I love this story. And so Daniel, who prays to God every day, 3 times a day, you know, he opens his window and he prays to God, was working for King Darius, you know, and he was so good at what he was doing that Darius made him one of the leading men in the whole palace, you know. And so Daniel, who worked his way up, now was one of the leaders, and the other men did not like this at all. They kind of like despised Daniel, and so they just decided that they would deceive the king and deceive. So deceive means to try to tell somebody or get somebody to believe something that is not true at all. And so these men went to King Darius and they said, you know, King Darius, you should make this rule. You're the king, right? And we should have a rule that said everybody should bow to you because you're the king and you're awesome. And, you know, why wouldn't people want to bow to you? You know, and if they don't, because that, you know, that could be a thing, we should just throw them in the lion's den, because why do we want anybody, you know, in the whole city that doesn't want to bow down to you, the king? You know, so they're very deceptive in telling King Darius, you know, this is what he should do. And King Darius thought about it and he was like, you know, yeah, I am pretty cool. So I think this is a good idea. So he decreed that everybody should bow down and worship him. And if not, they were going to be thrown into the lion's den. Well, Daniel, he knew better. He followed the one true God. And so each day, he would get down, he would open his window, and he would pray to God. Well, the very next day when the men saw him do this, they ran to King Darius and said, King Darius, your beloved Daniel is not praying to you, he is praying to his own God, you know. And Darius was very sad because he did like Daniel a whole lot. But unfortunately, because of the rule that he had made, he had to throw Daniel into the lion's den. He's very sad, very upset, right? And so the days passed, and finally when it came to the day where, they were to roll back the stone or whatever, King Darius came running and he was like, Daniel, are you there? Surprisingly, the whole time God had closed the mouths of those lions. Not a hair on Daniel was touched. And so Daniel said, yes, I am here. And that is when King Darius understood that Daniel didn't just pray to any God, but he prayed to the one true God. Daniel stood out from the crowd, right? Jesus followed God, and made his own path. And because of that, King Darius decreed that everybody should pray to Daniel's God, the one and true God. And so we, that is why we follow God. We follow God because he is the one true God. He can make the lion's mouth shut. He can move mountains if he wanted to, and so it's interesting as we go through this week. Remember that God has created everything around you, from the littlest, tiniest seed to the biggest, tallest tree. He created it, and it's kind of neat to think of all of